WWE seemingly had the ratings war against AEW all sewn up last year when Survivor Series rolled around, because as you'll remember, they sent a bunch of main roster dudes down to Wednesday nights and it piqued everybody's interest and everyone was like, I want to see what's going to happen. You took your television controls and you tuned the hell in. And at the same time, or at least a couple of weeks later, these same people were watching All Elite Wrestling's Dynamite and going, I don't really understand what's happening with the Dark Order. This is lost on me. And again, it seemed like the battle lines had been drawn. But after taking a week off and maybe coming back stronger than they ever had done, AEW also came out and said, oh, by the way, we have signed a brand new deal with TNT. We ain't going anywhere till at least 2023. And do you know what that means when you take a step back and survey the situation? Vince McMahon has failed to kill AEW. Why? Ping pong head. Here's why. The proof is in the numbers, or the pudding, but we're talking about numbers here, so we're not going to talk about pudding right now. But TNT last year said their Wednesday night slot average was around about 520,000 viewers. When you look at what Dynamite's been doing, that has increased it 82%. And even if you are the most hardened I want AEW to die person in the world, you can't argue that is very impressive. It's why the network felt so compelled to lock them down to a longer term deal so soon, because it just calms everything down and the creative people can be more creative and come up with better stories and come up with better matches and just try and turn this thing into a massive juggernaut. Then of course there is the 18 to 49 demographic sought after by anybody and everybody in advertising. When it comes to that, well, NXT doesn't do that well compared to AEW. In fact, if you didn't know, NXT actually skews quite old. Their big audience is 50 plus, but All Elite Wrestling often ends up in the top 5 on Wednesday nights. So basically, in short, it just means this. If you fall in the category of 18 years old all the way up to 49 years old, advertisers believe they can sell you stuff. And then as soon as you turn 50, I don't know, you get your wallet out of your pocket and you just burn it and you throw all your money down a drain. I don't know, that's how these people see you. This new deal also makes AEW the second biggest wrestling promotion there is, because in terms of revenue streams, New Japan doesn't get anywhere close to that. And while Ring of Honor is owned by Sinclair, and Sinclair have more cash than, I don't know, cows have udders, they try and operate on the money they bring into that company. And that is by no means anywhere near what All Elite Wrestling has just shaken hands on with TNT. So you see, I wrapped it up nicely in a little bow. And that is why Vince McMahon's plan hasn't worked. You would have to be living under a rock or have your head stuck into one of those cow's udders we just talked about not to realize the only reason NXT came to Wednesday nights in the first place was to try and split this audience. So some people may watch AEW, but more people would watch NXT. And I just gave you all the figures. That is not what is happening. Look at my hand go. And as we have done it before, we will do it again, but it's a little bit like, and you'll never see this coming, the Sega Mega Drive versus the Super Nintendo, because NXT is kind of Sonic S in the way it just barrages into your face and says, we're going to give you the best matches in the world and we are going to focus on our in-ring action, whereas Dynamite is a little bit more like Mario. You start off slow, but the more you play it, you realize there's a depth there and maybe just a little bit more to shake a stick at. Also, just from a personal point of view, I love NXT. I think NXT is one of the best promotions you can watch, but Sonic is vastly overrated. All you do is hold left and he runs for a while. And don't forget, before you go mad at the comments, that no, neither of these are bad. You pick which one you like the most and you settle down and you choose to watch that. And also, when it comes to Mario and Sonic, they're still both going strong, although Mario is doing far better than Sonic. To break it down further, NXT is kindly more solely focused on in-ring competition, and that is great. But more often than not, week in, week out, you will have, as I've already said, some of the best workers in the world getting into that squared circle and trying to prove they are the best. But outside of characters like the Velveteen Dream and a few others, you don't really get this kind of crazy side of pro wrestling, which again, some people like and some people don't. I mean, look at Adam Cole versus Tommaso Ciampa. The story is nice and simple. The latter never lost his championship. However, that championship is held now by the former, and he just so happens to be an asshole, but also an incredible worker. And you don't need more than that, but you could say it's a template that NXT subscribes to, and when you watch these narratives play out, they don't massively evolve. We just kind of shift from episode to episode, letting you know Adam Cole is really good, Tommaso Ciampa is really good, and trust me, they are going to have a really good match at TakeOver, and they will do. Happens all the time, 5 stars. If you compare that with, say, Cody versus MJF, I think the differences are quite stark, because not only do you know you're going to get those two warring on every episode of Dynamite, but look at all the secondary characters that come into play. QT Marshall, he is now a sympathetic babyface simply because he likes Cody. Wardlow, just by standing next to MJF, all of a sudden is this big dominating presence that we're quite interested in. DDP returned because Maxwell Jacob Friedman said he wanted to bang his daughter. And even the Butcher and the Blade, after a rough start, have now established themselves as a mid-card tag team. All of that from one story. We also know that at some point Cody is going to get lashed 10 times in the ring by MJF, and I don't even think that's something I want to see, but that's the whole drama of it. And even though we know where this is going to end up to, it'll be at Revolution when those two take each other on, there's going to be a few twists and turns along that journey. And that is where episodic television is at its best, when you're desperate to see what's going to happen next week, because you want to see which path they're going to go down. Look, it's not just AEW that's doing this. Raw, of all things, can you believe it? Raw has been smashing it in that sense too, so it's a round of applause all round. But I know, as a wrestling fan, that's the kind of shit I like. So realistically, taking your bias and putting it to one side, what would you watch if you were given these two options? Tommaso Ciampa and Adam Cole doing another contract signing, which is all good, or whatever craziness they're going to come up with MJF and Cody. And yeah, the title match will probably be better, but it all depends on why you started watching wrestling in the first place. And if we drag those statistics back into play, it seems a lot more people are actually interested in all the other stuff. And that kind of stands to reason too, because the episodes of NXT that did beat Dynamite were all based on narrative and tales and what Raw and SmackDown were going to do when they went down to NXT on a Wednesday night. What were the repercussions going to be, and what was the next step in the story? I know loads of you are raging right now and you're going, Sharon, you're biased towards AEW, but I'm not biased towards wrestling. I'm a massive geek, but again, the numbers don't lie, and people are going in this other direction. They're letting their intrigue gland be turned on, and they're following it to the dance. Because look, when viewers did think, oh, this connection with Raw and SmackDown is done, I don't think NXT is going to do that anymore, once again, they got that controller, clicked on over to TNT. And I'm not saying that AEW is perfect either, and neither is NXT, but it has become this far bigger beast than I think any of us were expecting, including one Vincent Kennedy McMahon. He couldn't have predicted this when he made the call to put it on the USA Network, and now, well, actually, it's good for us, because now he's got to be even more creative, and he's got to think even further outside the box in order to get those numbers to balance out. At some point, of course, your product needs to evolve, and maybe this is the catalyst to put that into place. I mean, when guys like the Velveteen Dream do come back, you are going to have this extra edge, but I think you can introduce more of those elements. Why not do it in 2020? The signs are there, everyone's calling for it. And you can't fault the in-ring work. I really want to make that clear. It's mesmerizing, and how they keep that bar so high, I will never know. But it's not like you tune into Dynamite and see a bunch of ducklings rolling around a ring, is it? They've got Kenny Omega, they got the Young Bucks, and even if you don't like that style, you can't fault their athleticism. So this focus on the old school does seem to have helped, and I know you're shouting out, what about the Nightmare Collective? Well, not everything is going to be the best thing you've ever seen in your life now, is it? But as much as we moan about that, it doesn't seem to be driving anybody away. This may hurt to hear, but numbers were okay when all those people are on the screen. What are you going to do, brother? It's going to make for some awesome television for years to come, and if nothing else, it could end up with both shows getting over 1 million viewers. I don't think that's outside the realms of possibility, and if you take the DVR ratings into it, I mean, AEW is doing like 1.4 million already. And that, of course, means that you're going to have to get an influx of new fans, but that is what we should be aiming at all the time. Structure your programming so that somehow you cater to the people that are going to tune in every week, but also have those little nuggets that make, I don't know, little Jackie, who's only 7 years old, be mesmerized by the world of professional wrestling and finally decide this is the crazy hobby she wants to invest in until the day that she dies. Too much. And also, don't forget, you don't even have to worry about what is going down live. You just take your DVR, you set it, you watch AEW on a Wednesday, you watch NXT on a Thursday, or vice versa. You have that choice, and you have the choice of some great wrestling content who do have two completely different ideals when it comes to what a product should be. That's what I want. Variety and diversity are always key. That is key. It makes me a happy man. We are living in a damn decent era, but I'm pretty sure Vince McMahon is scratching his head right now and coming up with the second round in the war that sees AEW take on NXT. Count me in, baby. I'm going along for the ride. Now, don't forget to comment below and let us know what you think about all of this. And it's just going to be, oh, WWE buzz, AEW buzz, even though it doesn't exist. Like, do I know any of them? No. So how can, oh, it doesn't even matter. Like the video, share the video, subscribe to What Culture Wrestling. Head over to whatculture.com where you can read articles like this, but using your eyes. Follow What Culture on Twitter, What Culture WWE, and watch more videos here on What Culture Wrestling. My name is Simon from What Culture. As always, I appreciate you tuning in. I appreciate for giving me your time. I appreciate for you listening. And I will see you very, very soon. But not on a Wednesday night because I'll be too busy watching AEW and NXT. That's just how I roll.